Hey everybody out there in the YouTube universe, this is Mr. Movie, and in today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different, but not that different, because this is part 2 of another video that I did. It was also a top 5 list, but not my usual top 5 from an actor or director that are in my collection, but this one is top 5 Marvel movies that are in my collection. The other video was the top 5 DC movies that are in my collection. The two big comic book houses, I had to do a video for both to be fair, and I also enjoy both, so I made 2 lists, and this is part 2. As I said in the other video, I grew up loving comic books. I still love comic books, and I'm so happy that the technology has finally caught up to the great stories and visuals that made comic books so great in the first place. And, that's a big deal. I never thought they'd be able to do it, but I mean, they're pulling it off with what they can do with CGI and all the technology. So I'm just really glad that it's happening now, and I'm able to see it and everybody's able to enjoy it. And now I did the top 5 DC ones. I'm doing the top 5 Marvel ones now, and like I said in the other video also, they don't have to be DCEU or MCU, just movies made from Marvel Comics. Now, like I said, to be considered, it doesn't have to be MCU, but unlike the DC list that I did, this one, all of them are MCU because there's so many of them and there's so many fantastic ones. This was a really, really hard list to do. I admitted in the other video that I'm more partial to Marvel than I am DC. I love them both. I grew up with both. I love comic books and characters from both, and I love movies from both. I just like the Marvel characters better, and I think they have better comics and movies. Just personal preference, the thing I grew up with loving more. But I still love DC. It's not like a lot of people have this argument between DC and Marvel. It's like a lot of things nowadays. You got to pick a team. Screw that. Just enjoy them all, like them both, and no need to fight about it. Just enjoy the great movies that we're finally able to see now that the CGI technology and everything is caught up. Also, like in the other list, no animated movies. This is strictly live action Marvel movies in my collection. So, without any further ado, we will go into the top 5 Marvel movies in my collection. Starting at number 5. This is the first big team-up one, The Avengers. For the longest time, this was my favorite. The reason it is because you're finally getting to see all the characters that they had, brought forward so far together, interacting, at first fighting with each other and then becoming a team. And it's just so, it blew my mind when I saw it. I've never geeked out so much in my life until, they expanded and later things came out. But I mean, it was just like, I can't believe I'm seeing, my favorite heroes on screen together. And, the CGI was great. The acting was great. They picked the right people, and so many quotable lines from that. And the action is just fantastic, nonstop. And one of the best bad guys in all of comics, Loki, and leading to Thanos in the end credit scene. Just a tremendous flick. I've seen it a million times. I go watch it over and over, and it's just such a great movie. But there are ones that have surpassed it on the list, and that's why it's at number 5. Tough for me to say. Like I said, this list was almost impossible to do. But coming in at number 4, Thor Ragnarok. This movie, I think, has the best trailer I've ever seen in my life. I remember when it came out, I was like, whoa, with the Led Zeppelin, music, and just the effects and what they did with this movie. The first 2 Thor movies are good. The first one's better than the second one, but they're good. But with Taika Waititi, the director, what he did is he changed Thor up into more what like he's supposed to be, like he is in the comics. And they added humor to it, and they really made it bright and colorful, and just embraced the wackiness of space, and all these different types of aliens. And they brought in a couple of different stories, which Marvel does a lot. Instead of just taking it exactly from the comics, they expand on it or add to it or combine things. And a lot of purists get mad at that, and I think they're just crazy, because you know why? It adds to it. It makes it better. I've read those comics. I don't need to see the exact thing on the screen. Show me something new. So, they World War Hulk, and that's another thing, adding the Hulk to it. It's kind of like a buddy cop film almost. But we have them fighting in the arena, and the whole mythology of Ragnarok. I have Viking heritage, so Thor's one of my favorites. And then the whole concept of Ragnarok, just the end of everything. It's just so great. And they have so many great actors in it. Again, you got Loki, one of the best bad guys in movies. Anthony Hopkins as Odin. I mean, come on. It's such a great space adventure, and just kick-ass soundtrack and kick-ass fight scenes, and so many parts that you just get so hyped up about. Great movie, Thor Ragnarok, number 4. Coming in at number 3. This was tough to do too, because I like all 3 of the films in this trilogy. And I want to say that this, I think, is the best trilogy out of any comic book movie series there is. The Dark Knight, I think, is second, only because I don't love the first film, but that's Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I love the first one, World War II, period piece. I love it. Red Skull. I love the third one, Civil War. Great comic book story. Cap and Iron Man duking it out. Got to pick sides. Introducing Spider-Man, amazing. But this one I love it. And it's another thing with Marvel that they do that's really cool, is that each movie is kind of like its own genre. Like, for instance, this one is like a spy thriller. Where Thor Ragnarok, which I was just talking about, is like a space odyssey, almost a buddy cop space odyssey, and like they do different types of genres within the comic book genre, which I think is really cool. And I also think it makes you never get tired of it, and you anticipate what's coming next. And it also doesn't bog it down to just being comic book movies. It makes it more expansive and makes the stories deeper. And Chris Evans is Captain America. He's so perfect. When I first cast him, I was like, the Human Torch? But he crushes it. He is Captain America. And this movie is so great. The story is great. They give you the background of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, the danger of it all is great. And like what he has to go through, and shows who he really is, and how his best friend means so much to him, his war buddy that he thought he lost. And this has some of the best fight scene choreography ever. When him and Winter Soldier are going at it in the street, you hear that Russian music playing, and just so badass. For the action from beginning to end of this movie is just nonstop, and it's just so perfect. And another thing Marvel does great, there's things in this that are paid off later, and they always do that with everything. There's stuff you see that's paid off later in that, and then stuff from that's paid off in this, all the Easter eggs. It's just Marvel's second to none. And I really like the whole, spy thriller aspect of Captain America, the Winter Soldier. One of the best, hard to put it this low, even though it's 3, but I had to do it. Captain America, Winter Soldier, number 3. Number 2, another genre that completely is different than the rest, is Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's a space opera in the vein of Star Wars, almost, you could say. It's like not our generation, the newer generation's Star Wars. And what's so amazing about this is the bold move to take a franchise that no one's really heard of, unless you're a comic book nut like me, and put it out there on Front Street and just take that risk. Because, people know Captain America and Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Spider-Man, the X-Men, people know those. from the comic books, from other movies, TV, whatever. But Guardians of the Galaxy, I remember people saying, what is this? What are they doing? But us comic book people were like, they're going there? Yes. And they nailed it. I mean, I've had discussions with people where we say, is this better than Star Wars? I mean, it might be. I think because it's a fuller movie, you know, there's the comedy aspect to it. You fall in love with every single character, and it just looks amazing. How they just did the different parts of space, and how the makeup and costumes look, and you know, the interaction between the characters. You know, it's hysterical. It's action packed. You know, you feel it. You know, Groot, when he dies, you're all upset. It's just such a great movie from beginning to end. It has everything you could possibly want in a movie: jokes, dialogue, action, set pieces, great effects. You know, it's totally tremendous space odyssey, space opera, second to none, except for number one in this list. In terms of that, you know, when you watch a space movie, you know, sci-fi, you want to see everything that's in this, and they give it to you, plus more, and the whole Marvel Comics thing. And, you know, it ties into everything like the rest of the movies. So, amazing movie. I had to put it at number 2 because it's just so much different than all the rest. And it made it so you're just like, they could do anything. Like when they announced Ant-Man, I was like, Ant-Man, really? They're gonna use that character? Very minor B character that nobody knows unless you're, again, a comic book nut. And they rocked it. You know, they made it like a heist comedy and nailed it. So this movie right here showed me they could do anything in the MCU, and to trust Kevin Feige, who is the president of Marvel, to no end. Just anything he wants to do, let it rock, because they're gonna nail it. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. Tremendous. Coming in at number 1, this is 2 movies. I've said it before. I combined them because it's one. They just split it in half so you weren't in the theater for 6 hours. To me, the best comic book movie ever made. I don't even think it's close. You got Infinity War and Endgame. Avengers. There's nothing that can't be said about this movie. It's just from beginning to end, just takes you in and just pays off everything from 20 plus movies, ties in every narrative thread, all the Easter eggs, pays off everything. You get every character. I don't know how they did this. Every character gets enough screen time. The story makes perfect sense. You follow it throughout the whole thing, and with the best villain maybe in movie history, Thanos, and you get all your favorite characters, and you know, still you get the comedy, you get the action. The CGI is better than anything I've ever seen. Thanos looks like a real person, and all the great actors that are in all the different films, and the culmination of 20 plus movies that they pay off in this and don't miss a beat, and it's inexplicable how they pulled this off. I've seen it so many times. I've watched it back to back. I've just watched scenes. I've never seen crowd reaction in a theater ever, even close to the ones in this. And like an Endgame, when Cap catches the hammer, I thought the ceiling was going to come in with the people going crazy. It's just, you know, there's so much like that, and it's nonstop. And you get all your favorite characters, you know, and like I said, every moment is paid off. And, you know, it's the biggest selling movie of all time for a reason. And I think because it is the best comic book movie ever made. And that's why it's number 1 on my list. And also, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, besides the fact of it being the number 1 Marvel movie in my collection. So, counting down: 5, The Avengers, the original; 4, Thor Ragnarok; 3, Captain America: The Winter Soldier; 4, Guardians of the Galaxy, and 5, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Hope you enjoyed this. I didn't say in the other video because this is going to be part 2. If you do enjoy it, subscribe so you get and hit the notification bell so you get all the videos I make. I do top 5 lists, not top 10. I do movie reviews of old movies, and you know, if you like it, hit the like, and you know, share it with your other friends. If they're into comic books, DC or Marvel, let them know about it. If they're into movies, let them know about the channel. I'd appreciate it. And you know, if you have a different list, you have different ones you like DC more, you like Marvel more, whatever, throw them in the comments. We'll talk about it. So with that being said, this is Mr. Movie signing off, and I'll see you again next time at the flicks.